Call this meeting of Public Safety Committee to order. First up, Chief Brown, give us an update on ISO.
All right. Good afternoon. Just want to introduce a couple people that will be presenting today real quick. Training Chief Bill Race, Acting Lieutenant Gavin Floyd, who's in charge of our cadet recruitment program. They're going to walk you briefly through three main components of our training division. Then that really does dovetail into a pretty exciting announcement for the fire department in the city that'll come on the tail end of this. So I'll turn it over to Acting Lieutenant Floyd.
Good afternoon. So I'll speak about our cadet program. We are starting our third year, and we are excited to have 12 new individuals in the fire department. We started the cadet program in 2022. It was with 6 cadets for the length of 1 year. During that time, they worked 24 hours a week, and they kind of picked their own schedule. Since last year, we decided to change the format. We changed it to a 32-hour per week position, and they had to attend each day of the week. Each class we've hired people from our cadet program into our fire academy. The program's designed to introduce the fire service to people in the community. So young adults, teenagers, they come to our training center and they perform the same skills you would in a fire academy, throwing ladders. We do community service events. For example, Michigan Career Quest at the DeVos Place. We spent the day and interacted with over 9,000 kids. So it was a blast. This most recent one, we had 2 cadets in our fire academy. They are the top 2 performers in the class, so we see results as far as skills goes as well. But the best thing about it is opening up to the community, allowing them an introduction to the fire service, and get a good feel for if this career is for them or not. We also assist them with the hiring process. So they get practice interviews. We purchase and provide study materials for written tests, and we run our agility test weekly. So they schedule their hiring process, and we ensure that they're ready when that time comes. All right. Yeah, that's all I have. I'll turn it over for training to Chief Race.
Good afternoon. I'm Chief Race. I'm the head of the training division. Wanted to touch on the number of hours that is required for our recruits when they get hired. We're mandatory 252 hours of classroom alone, and we do probably close to 500 hours of hands-on and fire training. Following that, they do 320 hours of emergency medical training, which that leads into our department-wide training. Not only do we have to train recruits, we have to keep our 230 firefighters trained up, and there's hours that we're required to do every year. We have, on average, 220 hours per firefighter every year have to have training. It's very taxing on the department, on our personnel, because they're running alarms in between all this training. We work on a 9-week rotating calendar. During that 9 weeks, 3 of those weeks are fire and rescue training. That's the training of the 220 hours we need to get. We have specialty team training, wellness training, because we need to take care of our personnel, and then EMS training. There's also station-based training that we send out to make sure we get those hours in every year for ISO. The training division is responsible for designing, scheduling, and delivering all of that training to the members of the department, which again is a vital piece in maintaining our ISO and accreditation. And I'll turn this over to Chief Brown. Thank you.
So they made it sound easy. I can tell you that managing those major components of this department is a 3D chess, essentially, to fit all the hours and requirements in around running 25,000 alarms a year. It's a real art that they go through. Chief Race mentioned ISO, so I wanted to let you know that we received notification that we're going to continue as an ISO Class 1 department. And let me walk you briefly through what that means. So the Insurance Services Office rating, it's a nationwide program, collects data on fire departments and cities. So it looks at not only the fire department, but our emergency communications center and our water department to assess our effectiveness at suppressing fires. The scale is from a scale of 1 to 10. 10 is essentially no fire protection. 1 is the best fire protection as recognized in the country. And we are maintaining our Class 1 rating. I'll break down the score for you briefly, but I want to call out the emergency communications, AKA our dispatch center within the police department. They have worked tirelessly to make system improvements and record-keeping improvements over the last decade with the fire department, and they actually received a perfect score in the latest rating. So full 10 out of 10 points. I'd also like to lift up the water department that increased their rating to over 94%. We have an extremely good water department, very reliable for fire suppression efforts. And then as you can see, the fire department as well, we scored a 41.13 out of 50. There was a couple percent drop in there. Our training is good, our record keeping is good, our equipment is good. The way they looked at our deployment has changed slightly, but we've already spoken with them, and when we reopen the Kendall Fire Station, we expect to see that go right back up because we're increasing some gaps in coverage down in the 3rd Ward. So all in all, the fire department, dispatch, and water department are consistently doing what we need to do. And I'll give you just a brief breakdown to compare to other agencies. So nationwide, just over 500 departments now are a Class 1 department. And we are the only Class 1 department in the state of Michigan and have been since we achieved that rating after our last assessment. When we go around the state and teach, many departments are striving for that. And I support that and encourage that because it lifts everyone up. But I am proud to say that we're the first and only still at this time. With that, open to any questions, not only for ISO, but for training and cadet program, if you want to hear from Lieutenant Floyd again.
Chief, I get a brief question for you. This is, you probably don't have the answer, but maybe even a gut guess. The obvious benefit for everyone who lives in Grand Rapids is lower insurance rates, right? Do you have an impression of how big a deal it is to be, let's say, a Class 1 compared to a Class 5 for your premiums? Any wild guesses there?
I do, but I need to frame that, Mayor. So years ago, ISO was the
This
sole...
is the first time he's heard this question.
Yes, exactly. Years ago, ISO was the sole supplier of insurance information to the insurance industry. And so it was pretty easy to call up your local agent and go, hey, we were a Class 3. If we move to a Class 2, what's that going to do to my premium? Nowadays, insurance companies, some have developed their own algorithms, i.e. State Farm, who utilizes fire loss by zip code. They may or may not use ISO. However, a lot of their formulas, their black box formulas, still use some of these components. So it's not a straightforward answer. Years ago, it was, hey, you're going to see a couple $100s between each class. What I can tell you, and what I told the manager after breaking the news that we're maintaining a Class 1 department is, we are ensuring the lowest possible home insurance rates that we can. What that means to the actual wallet of the homeowner, I can't say. But we cannot provide any better data than we currently are for our citizens. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. You said we dropped a couple points. Where's the cutoff?
Yeah, so we are about 3/4 of a point above that threshold. Last time we were a little over 1.25 points above that threshold. We ran some analysis. I fully anticipate next time we're going to be back up to at least 1.5 to close to 2 points over that threshold. Everything, the training records, community risk reduction, water and dispatch is all very consistent, and we're simply adding capacity with the Kendall station. So I feel very confident we're going to be able to maintain this.
Great.
Yeah.
So, my back of the napkin math, and again, Do you know how many residential structures we have in the city? How
I
many?
thought it was around 72,000 households.
That was the number I was going to guess.
Yep.
So if we're saving a household a couple $100, you're talking in order of $14 million public benefit here annually to having an excellent fire department. So
Yes, and that's just for the residential. They also do individual ratings on commercial. And I'll give you a specific example. In our Division Avenue Fire Station District, we had a company relocate here specifically versus a neighboring community, and they brought up the ISO Class 1 and the impact on their commercial fire insurance.
Right.
So
And that-
it is attracting businesses.
Yeah, and I know, as a commercial landlord, like, you guys are really good at coming out and looking at places and doing sprinkler inspections and all that kind of stuff, which presumably, like, if you don't check and they don't work, that's not great. So really want to at least point out for, the 7 people listening at home that this is a huge public benefit that we're getting, that it's easy to underappreciate, but, so great that we have a great fire department. It's a little bit like our bond rating. Bond ratings sound boring, but at the end of the day, when we're borrowing money, like how cheap we can borrow that money
big
is
deal.
a big deal.
Yeah.
So bond ratings are to a municipality what the mortgage rate is to the average consumer. Yeah, thanks for being part of helping citizens save money. That's really great. I mean, despite, also, of course, there's the life-saving component to this, right? Like,
Oh,
a
absolutely.
good fire department does their job better, and the core function here is to avoid loss in whatever form it's in. So that's great. Commissioner Robbins.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Yeah, super commendable. It's interesting too. I know the couple of years that I've served on this committee, we've heard the same news year after year, but hearing like the practical implications of how that's really attracting businesses, saving people money, it is super cool because I think a lot of people don't think of that when they hear, a rating like this. So that's awesome. Just one quick question on the cadets training program. I saw for year 2 that 2 of the 12 were hired. Is that just like a lack of, capacity to hire additional personnel? Are they like going to nearby communities and then coming back at a later date? I'm just curious to hear what else.
I'll weigh in, but then I want Gavin to round it out.
Sure.
When we go through the final chief's interview, we're looking for people that are the right fit, that are mature enough, and that are ready for the rigors of this profession. And sometimes, even though they might have done reasonably well in the cadet program, we call it seasoning. They need a little bit more life seasoning before they're ready to enter this workforce. But Lieutenant Floyd, do you want to add anything to that?
Sure. I'll say, especially with the last group, part of the point of this program is also to find the people that end up not wanting to do this. So everybody grows up, wants to be a firefighter, right, or cop or EMT or whoever, but not everybody's cut out for it, like he said. Everybody comes and gives it their all. They perform well while they're there, and during that time, there's always a few that decide, I'm glad I tried it, I'm not 100% sure this is for me, and they decide to go a different route.
Sure.
And we help them out through that pathway, whichever way they go. So
Cool. No, appreciate the info.
So thank you for your rigorous training. I appreciate that, making sure that we're finding the ones that want to be there. And thank you for the lives that are being saved. And I would be remiss if I didn't also thank you for the savings on my homeowner's policy as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
And hopefully those savings are being passed along as landlords to their tenants as well. My one quick question is on the ISO. You talked about that and noticing the variances for the fire department. You talked about the one about the deployment analysis. Just any thoughts on the other large variance, which was the credit for company personnel, or a little bit more explanation on what that measure is?
Yeah, so credit for company personnel, 9.42 out of 15. ISO utilizes NFPA standards. NFPA standards are national consensus standards, and they recommend a much higher staffing level based on population density. Although that is good in some cases, we go through the accreditation model and perform a very in-depth standards of coverage, which looks at the risk in our community, and we staff at a level commensurate to that. Could we add more staffing? Sure, I'd love to add more staffing. I think every city department would. But what I will tell you is we are doing a pretty darn good job at our current staffing levels. And as we've mentioned, we are keeping an eye on the growth of this community, and we'll need to adjust our model as the community grows. It's virtually impossible to maximize that credit for company and personnel. So if we stay at that 9.5, 10 out of 15, I am very comfortable with that. I believe when I first undertook an ISO assessment back in 2012, I want to say we were in the 6 or 7 range. So we have steadily been able to increase our company personnel score.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Chief, and to you in the department. And I just want to echo how outstanding our department is since achieving that rating. As you pointed out, less than 2% of all departments have that rating. And when you think about 500 cities in, 20,000, over 20,000 communities in the U.S. and being the only one in Michigan, that is clearly a distinction. And I just want to offer some context. And it's not a recent number, but the question the mayor asked, I had that same question to the chief. I wanted to
Yes.
quantify this. And in 2019, the Lansing State Journal reported, I think Lansing was ISO 2 at that time, that when they compared the cost of insurance in Lansing to communities that was 6 rating, it was $200 to $250 back then difference in 2019. So I do think that it's good to quantify. I know we are not insurance experts, but maybe there are insurance providers who may want to do good community work and at least share, at least from their book of business from us, what average premiums in the state is between people living in an ISO 1 community versus another rating. So, but anyway, thank you for the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you so much once again for all the hard work that you all continue to do. Since this is a first-class city, we thank you for being Class 1.
Absolutely.
In your efforts. And in that capacity, outside of the cadet program, can you tell us what other strategies are being utilized to recruit and to retain officers, and then also in the capacity of what's being done also to try to just enhance and make everything more attractive, if you will?
So I'll frame it, and then once again, I'm going to turn it over to Lieutenant Floyd. So that position has been on active assignment coming up on 3 years. Started out with Javon Welch, one of our firefighters who started the cadet program under Chief Freeman's guidance, and then it's moved on to Gavin. And that is his whole job, essentially, is reaching out to our community. But Gavin, why don't you come up and just give a few more brief examples of how we're getting people in the door.
And what's the current personnel number as well?
Current personnel for the department?
Yeah, for the
Oh,
department.
we're at 232.
232.
232.
Thank you.
So in addition to our cadet program, we also do a summer youth academy. So we open it up for kids 15 to 18 within the city, and they come down for a week to our training center. They get fire gear. We provide lunch. They do all the fire skills in an academy. We pull hose lines off and spray water one day. We do some search and rescue drills. They get fire gear. We have a lot of fun. We bring lunch for them. They get their CPR, first aid, AED certifications, so they get medical training as well. In addition to that, I spend a lot of my time out in the community, like Chief said, so I visit a lot of local high schools, middle schools. We go to job fairs, events in the city. We set up tables and booths. We get kids to come talk to us. We set up obstacle courses so they can, bang a sledge on a tire, drag a tire down a couple feet and back. And I try my best to be out in the community at all times. So I also assist with teaching the fire academy. So there's some days I don't make it out, but I'm always looking for job fairs, always getting in touch with counselors at high schools. I do that all day within the city. Yep.
Thanks. Since we've got a limited amount of time, I'm going to, if it's okay, move us on to our next presentation. We got 3 big ones coming up. So
Thank you.
Chief. And Chief Winstrom, you're on deck, where you were on deck. Now you're up. I'm always weak on sports analogies.
did a good one this morning on 3.1. Changing.
Yeah.
Move that one.
I try.
All right.
Chief, you've got three big things to talk about, so if you want to just roll through them all, and then we'll ask for input.
Excellent. All right, and I think we're talking, well, I'll just very quickly, joined by Lieutenant Nate Mead, who's head of our internal affairs and accreditation section, Sergeant Justin Ewalt, who commands our traffic section, Sergeant Al Ort from our training section. I believe Deputy Chief Maycroft is in the back there as well. And let's talk truck enforcement real quick. Update from the police department. As you can see, we started with the scales in 2024, took a break for the winter, and specifically heard some interest in Cesar E. Chavez. Have spent a lot of time out there. Very little truck violations observed, but I think some of that has to do with the signage that we're awaiting, and I think Mobile GR is going to come up and give us some information on that from this slide.
Thank you, Chief.
I know you've got a name too, sorry.
Hi, everyone. Jessica Smith, Mobile GR Director. I just wanted to give a quick update on where we are with your truck route signage. So first of all, one of the things that we did proactively is we did quadrant reviews. So each quadrant of the city, we did a review to see how our signage was out there, what was missing, if anything was damaged, and did a quick inventory there. So we found some missing signage in key areas. We wanted to update or unclear signage, and then also any additional stuff that needed to go in there. So what this did was really support a safer, more efficient truck travel and reduce routing confusion by having in the right signs and, and taking care of the signage we had out there that needed a little TLC. So what we are doing next is we're going to go out and fix the things that we found that needed a little attention. So back in August 2024, back to some things that we have done is we put in some no through truck and no truck signage. And this is an example of what that signage might look like along Covell Avenue, O'Brien Road, and Pine Avenue. Alpine Avenue, I believe, was the one that I made a mistake and put in here, and that was not correct. Yes? Okay. I'm looking back at my traffic engineer. If y'all want to say hi to John Bartlett in the back, he's here to make sure that I got this right. So a little price point for you. Total 14 signs cost about $12.50. Citywide projects, this is the next step. We're going to do that signage installation plan from those quadrant reviews. Our plan has about 50 truck route signs and then 68 directional signs to help with that routing. The estimated cost of that project is about $15,000 in signs. So this is what your signage plan looks like by each quadrant. So you'll see on your left here, the northwest quadrant, on your right, the northeast quadrant, and those bright teal dots on top of that neon green. I understand that color choice may not have been the best, but hopefully you can see that on your screen. That's where those signage projects will take place. And this is southwest quadrant and then your southeast quadrant there. Same thing with those bright teal dots. They're just indicating where those projects will go. A little bit of Cesar Chavez, We've got a little bit more signage to go in this area. You'll see different signs. You may see truck route, you may see no through trucks, and you may see also the visual image of the no through truck sign there too. So the future signage installation along Cesar Chavez from Wealthy to Clyde Park, these are including some side streets to Godfrey and Century. You're going to see a number of no trucks, no through trucks, truck route signs, and some directional signage, and the cost of that project is about $5,000. And that is it.
Are you going to stick around, Jessica?
I sure will.
Great.
Do you want me to hand off and we'll hold to the end? Is that okay? All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, Jeff.
You bet.
All right. Moving on, as you can see, the trend continues, auto theft slower. Next slide, even more graphically, we want to keep that up. I want this to keep going in this direction. So all good news on that front. No statistically significant factors here in robberies, which are about pretty much the same as they were the past 4 years. Same story with aggravated assaults. No patterns or statistical significance in the rise there. This is our updated non-fatal shooting map. As you can see, I believe there's 8 incidents with 9 victims, and again, no certainly rhyme or reason at this point in time. Each one a very individualized circumstance in and of itself. Fortunately, we're remembering Shemaya and Alita today, and have not added names to our homicide count, which is the lowest it's been obviously since I've been here. I just remember in 2022, in the month of May, we had 5 murders just in the month of May. So to see the peace in the city continue is very heartwarming. Our clearance rate across the board continues to increase. You probably wouldn't remember, but I do. 2024's clearance rate is now increased to 77%. We don't like to call them cold cases because they're not cold to us, and still working on those unsolved cases from years previous. Good news on the recorded fatal overdose front too, that number is the same as the last presentation, as we've seen a decrease in the amount of fentanyl that we've seen, and about 1 illegally possessed gun safely removed from the street every day by the officers across the city. Wanted to update you a high level or a little bit in-depth level on changes, especially since I started here back in March of 2022, and coming from my background in a very large police department in policy, I'm very confident that I will maintain the best practices, but you don't have to take my word for it. We have been CALEA certified now again since July 2023, and part of the continuation accreditation, which Lieutenant Mee oversees the nuts and bolts of that, is we go through a policy review with CALEA every single year, and then an actual site visit on a regular basis as well. But now that everything's virtual, it's very easy for them to view our policies online, and then proofs to see that we're actually complying with the policy. So we do have this outside group, which is founded by not only the International Association of Chiefs of Police, National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, National Sheriff's Association, and the Police Executive Research Forum, of which I am a member. Policy, and I'll tell you, this idea in policing that chiefs somehow have the ability to inform their members when they cannot use deadly force is something that I think is probably, it is the wrong way to look at it. We, of course, are guided by the law. And I was guided by the law when I rewrote the policies. I rewrote the use of force policy so much that I even changed the title, because more important than talking about how we use force is avoidance of unnecessary force. So that's why we even changed the title to De-escalation, Response to Resistance and Use of Force, and put as the top priority of the police department the sanctity of human life, which are words on paper, as you can see, but it also signals a culture change which has taken place in the years since I've been here. De-escalation in the previous policy was actually misdefined as the act of taking a lower use of force. For example, if an individual was coming at you with a knife, you were authorized to use a firearm. If the individual then dropped that knife, you de-escalated by lowering to, say, a baton or something like that, not recognizing that de-escalation is actually involving techniques mostly using your most important tool as a police officer, which is your voice, to reduce or eliminate the need for the use of force. So that is new since 2022. Additional policy changes, again, guided by the Self-Defense Act, which is the law in the state of Michigan, not only for citizens, but also for police officers. So requiring a warning before use of deadly force. Using deadly force only when necessary, which is literally in the jury instructions if these cases go to trial, and requiring de-escalation and the opportunity to voluntarily comply. There has been some misunderstanding, especially since former Officer Scher's trial about foot pursuit policy, of which I am proudly an expert in the Midwest on foot pursuit policy. And I will say we do not have a policy called foot pursuits in the Grand Rapids Police Department. As I've said from early on, foot pursuits are dynamic, impossible to contemplate every scenario in a policy. I wrote oversaw and had a hand in writing the 13-page policy that was part of a court-ordered settlement in Chicago, and it is not the right way to do things. But the important parts are in our policies, including the requirement of reasonable suspicion, probable cause for a stop. Foot pursuit policies really came into vogue because they realized that officers in foot pursuits, their adrenaline was up, their emotions were high, and when they apprehended an individual, there was a tendency to use force to punishment. That is strictly prohibited in both policy and in our trainings. And training our officers how to not only avoid the flight, but provoking flight, which was a tactic that I saw even back since when I was a police officer, when a police car would roll up, maybe with its lights on very quickly to a street corner where young men were hanging out and see who ran and chase that individual who runs. Those are all currently prohibited in our policy. Again, scenario-based training is something that I talk about all the time, extremely important to us. It is the best way to train as police officers, and we cannot train on this subject enough. It's easy to change policy. It's really hard to change police culture, but I've seen this police culture in the Grand Rapids Police Department get to levels I am so deeply proud of. Started at one of the big changes we did early on. 28 days into my tenure here was the shooting of Patrick Lyoya, and we released the video of that incident 9 days after. And that took a lot of discussions with Mr. Becker, the prosecutor, who at the time really understood the situation I was in and how important it was to me to balance that transparency with the need to do the investigation. And to be honest, the only reason it took 9 days was because he wanted to see it for himself, and he was out of state at the time. When he got back, we got together and we released that video as soon as possible. That was new for the state of Michigan. I heard from a lot of my police chief counterparts. They did not like that. They didn't like that I was setting the bar and now fast forward 3 years, and that is the bar, to get these incidents out as quickly as possible without interfering with the investigation. But having investigated many very complex cases and homicides, I think 9 days sitting on a video or 9 days releasing a video is a very reasonable amount of time. When you're talking months and months, it is no longer reasonable and wouldn't have been reasonable to this city, I don't think. Speaking of transparency, we've increased our FOIA staff. We've lowered the FOIA backlog. We've updated our FOIA public-facing dashboard, which really takes away some of the FOIAs because people can just go online now and get some crime data. Our embrace and support of Cure Violence is new since I've been here. I remember starting and asking my command staff, who was the liaison to Cure Violence, who even knows who to call at Cure Violence, and no one knew even a contact there. Since 2022, we've been as accessible as an agency as possible, and that's not only, I just gave a speech at the Grand Rapids Chamber for a group over there. It was what I would call a somewhat friendly audience. But that's not what I mean. I mean going in front of very groups which are willing to challenge us and ask questions, and I almost always say yes, and usually when I say no, it's because I have already said yes to someone else as far as attending, and that is not only me, it's the deputy chief, and that goes on to our service area captains as well. Increase the size of the police chief advisory team and kept that up, except I canceled tonight's because I have a birthday thing I'm doing. Sorry, Pastor. We've revived the Youth Police Academy, the Citizens Police Academy, when some of our sports program, the Explorer program. I'm the current president of the board for the Boys and Girls Club. We've continued our engagement there. So a lot of these things which were put on hold due to COVID, we're back in the community at 100%. More culture change. We met early on with the psychiatrist that would review our recruits and simply ask what is important to the city of Grand Rapids. And I said, well, number one, anyone with a propensity to violence. You saw in years past and even currently, sometimes you would see in recruit videos, police officers jumping out of helicopters with ropes and machine guns and uses of force and et cetera. And it was like you were recruiting for the Marines, and God bless the Marines, they do a great job, but municipal policing is something different from that. So as well, focusing on recruitments very intentionally, seeking to match the makeup of our city by making those trips to HBCUs. Met early on with our minority officers and said, what can we do differently to encourage more recruitment? A lot of it sounded exactly like everybody else. Police recruiting is our best recruiters are happy officers. But I did get some input. I know now retired Captain Terry Dixon explained to me that with my super white straight hair, if I grow it out, it's super white and straight. And if he grew his out, he had folliculitis on his beard. And he said, how about giving the guys beards? I think that would get it. And we changed beards, and suddenly every police agency in Western Michigan now also authorized beards because we were beating them so badly in recruiting. We brought outside trainers for constitutional policing and self-regulation, which is something not talked about enough. We talk about de-escalating others, but recognizes the fact that we hire humans, and police officers are humans, and the ability to self-regulate when you are at a very high stress situation, it can be just as important to make the proper decision. Staffing, all good news. If we had all of our individuals in training on the street today, we would be at 308. To put that in perspective, I remember early on in the first months I was there, we had as few as 14 officers on the street at a single day to cover 33 beats. And if you think 14 officers for the entire city of Grand Rapids is not a proper amount, and that's where we were getting the complaints. Why did it take an officer 45 minutes to respond to my 911 call? It added to a feeling of less than safety across the city, even though we were quickly responding to those shots fired and violent crime, but that's all we were doing. So not only increasing staffing, but increasing efficiency. I've made our records management system better. I've made it easier for police officers to do less paperwork. But I've also made sure that we civilianize the positions that could be. For example, subpoena services records unit. We have a civilian PIO and hired a civilian chief of staff, which was previously filled by a sworn captain. Speaking of civilian hires, with the support of the commission, we've added a victim service manager and now have two assistants for her to coordinate the enhanced support of victims, which gives us a leg up on supporting our victims of domestic violence. So important, as we've seen just this year, deadly domestic violence incidents in our city. Another highlight of what we've done since 2022 in July, we started our co-response program, recognizing that police officers are not always or almost never best equipped to respond to individuals in mental health crisis. When there's an MSW trained specifically for that around, we had one. She was culturized in the police department. She is now part of the police department, and we've now added 2 additional full-time MSWs to respond for those type of call. The community loves it. The police department loves it. It is something that we should have done as a profession long ago. Collaboration with OPA, we're the first municipal police department in the state to add concessions for civilian oversights in our collective bargaining. Working with OPA within the framework that was created with the city surveillance policy, we obtained unmanned aerial vehicles, most recently used, I think, for the Riverbank run. Very useful tool in policing, but it was something that we had a lot of public conversations about within that framework and in conjunction with OPA. Of course, OPA is responsible for our connection with Axon, and they obtained for us newer tasers, ECWs, electronic, I forget what the C is. Anyway, newer tasers with a 40-foot range, over twice the range of previous razors, making it even easier to use less lethal force, and an automatic shut-off capability, which allows them to be activated to shut off when the control is lost from a police officer. We also got enhanced body cameras, which now not only have better images, that OPA obtained for us, not only better images, but it's this 2-stage shutoff. So the body cameras will not be turned off just because there's pressure on the front. It actually takes 2 separate buttons to be pressed. And an enhanced training system delivered through virtual reality. innumerable number of realistic live scenarios. It is a heavy lift to do those scenario-based trainings, but if you can do them with a virtual reality system over and over and over, including mental health crisis, we have scenarios that we go through with dealing with individuals with schizophrenia, autism, all sorts of varying circumstances, and they're getting more and more advanced all the time. We transitioned our use of force to, as I've told you guys probably before, into the year 2000 when I went to the Chicago Police Department, I learned how to box. I learned how to punch somebody until they said, I give up. That was exactly what was taught, and then they gave me a gun and keys and said, go hit the street. Boxing is not an effective way to arrest people, and if you've ever seen a video of a police officer, even arguably justified, punching someone in the face, it looks optically bad, and you think to yourself, there should probably be a better way to accomplish this, or it's excessive force. So we have now completely transitioned to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu based training, which focuses on control tactics, on grappling, and our training staff actually has identified 6 circumstances. So when we have a reported use of force, that use of force not only gets reviewed by the supervisors, but also supervisors in the training unit to see if there's adjustments that should be made in training. And as we've rolled out our Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu based training, our training staff has identified 6 separate incidents that most likely would have resulted in deadly force because those individuals were armed with a firearm, which were, because of the new tactics that we've trained, successfully brought under control and safely. In conclusion, as I believe I said this 3 years ago when I gave a similar presentation, our success as a police department is definitely tied with the success of the city. We're so thankful for the success that the commission, the support that commission has shown this whole time in some very emotional and heated discussions and important discussions. But the key to recruitment is to having a police department that's supported by the city, and nobody wants to work for a boss that they think doesn't support them. So we're always looking to do better, and you've got that commitment from us to always be where I blanked for a second. Sorry, Mr. Payne. We're always expected to be perfect and always doing better, and that's exactly what we try and be every day. And with that, let's talk about trucks. No, I'm just kidding. Talk about whatever you want. Any questions you want.
Thanks so much, Chief. That was a great, really great overview. Committee member, Mr. Brown. Pastor?
We're going to pass the buck, but nevertheless, let's keep rolling. What partnerships have been done and established through the police department to try to educate and to empower the citizens about their rights and change a policy each year? I know you said every year, the changes have been made, but what has been done to try to help to educate in that capacity?
Oh, boy.
And I commend all the things that you all have been doing. I really do. And
So we have our we try and kind of stay in our lane. We have our Know Your Rights campaigns in the city as far as our own communication. As Pastor Golson, you might not be on it, but every month we meet with the All Pact group, which is a very diverse group of thought throughout the city, where we brought in not only GRPD but other police agencies and the sheriffs, with a lot of community leaders and everybody from the ACLU, the NAACP, health systems across the country. So that's one of our standing groups of people that we share what's going on in our department on a daily basis. We had a very lively meeting recently. We talked mostly about the SURE trial and the changes that have taken place in the police department. Other partnerships, oh boy.
What about new citizens or
yeah, well,
or
Treetop
immigrants?
Collectives down south on Division Street there. We had a regular meeting with them. What is the name of the West Michigan group, which comes here in large numbers?
Together West Michigan.
Together West Michigan. I meet with Together West Michigan on a regular basis. I've had numerous meetings with them with their new immigrant group and other police topics as well, and mental health and other things. So we meet on a regular basis. Since 2022, I've actually made a very strong connection in the Congolese community. I appeared on a Congolese TV show, I want to say 3 weeks ago. just a question and answer for about an hour and a half. But also have addressed many Congolese and other refugee congregations on a regular basis, sat down with them, and a lot of challenging questions, a lot of emotional questions, especially because Patrick Luyoya was from the Congo. But as we sat down, I think my record was 5 or 6 hours with them, and it was difficult conversations for about an hour, and then it was questions about just being a new American and how do I get points off my driver's license, and questions about school and things like that. So when we are invited as an agency, we always try and say yes, because those invitations didn't always come, especially early on in 2020, back after George Floyd was killed, and then 2022 again. So building those relationships, I'm sure if I put my mind to it, I can think of more, but just about anybody that invites me. I don't want to, some organizations might not want me to call them out, but I meet with some organizations that deal with youth on a regular basis as well.
And just to refresh, I think that the city's commitment on this broad issue, we have it's the GRPD is really partnering with OPA, and our Office of Public Accountability, Mr. Davis in the back of the room, literally has a forum for Know Your Rights periodically, and that's a great thing. It's, part of that partnership, right? We're trying to globally address these concerns.
And expand it not only in English, but also for immigrant communities and Congolese community as well.
And both OPA and the chief have been to Mayor's Mondays and talked to citizens there too. So thanks for that, and other officers. So I'm certainly well aware of. I've said this before in private, Chief, but one of my one of my concerns is that you're going to work yourself to death, because you really are out in the community all the time. It's shocking to me how often I see you out there, and people have to sleep, so I do worry about you a little bit. I'm sorry if I'm sounding like your mom, but
I did have a question, but Pastor Golson did have his first, so that's why I was deferring to him.
Yep.
Real quick, I appreciate the update, Chief, and again, I commend the work that is being done. I do want to just bring it up, and this may be another place for this, but I do want to alert. I appreciate the update, because I did ask those in the city about an update of the draft independent comprehensive status report on police studies and recommendations that was issued August 11, 2020 by OPA. In that there were over 100 recommendations, and several of them were listed as either little or no progress made, but this is helpful because this does address some of those things in there. I'm just, along with Pastor Golston, I do think, and I appreciate what has been done, but I think some of the magnitude, and when we had those 4 or 5 different reports that were compiled over a couple of different years, some ways of communicating out some of the improvements that have been made, I think those will go a long way. With the community understanding how we are changing, and I changed that from how we are changing, because I do think we made good work, but I do think we have some ways to go on some things. So I'm not going to bog us down on this, but I did share with the mayor and the rest of this committee, and I've talked with Mr. Davis as well, is looking for how we keep this before the people to see how these things have really got engrafted into the culture of the department and the city. So thank you for that.
Mayor, in response, this is a very important conversation, because Mr. Brown's not just saying it on his own. There are a lot of other people who are asking the same question. So I want to be just clear on this. So as I recall that report, because there were so many different reports over time, what we did was in 2020 gave an update on the report, and then for those things that had not been done at the time that we needed to continue to move forward, was subsequently incorporating the police department strategic plan and an Office of Public Accountability and Oversight strategic plan. And so I think, and I looked at this the other day, I remember specifically wanting to make sure, because it's one thing to have all these reports, but people need a visual. And so if you look in the police department strategic plan, it has all the studies over a period of years, but only goes up to 2022. And what the chief has done today is given progress from 2022, but that, apart from this, it's not online for the public to reference, similar to the timelines in the strategic plan. So I think updating it, to your point, more holistically, kind of because a lot of work has been done in the police department, as well as other ways of crime prevention. You'll hear that shortly. Will paint a very holistic picture of where we've come over time and still evolving.
That's a very good way of putting it, somewhere in a succinct spot, and then also some way of communicating that out. So pushing as well as having it available.
Thank you. I echo all of the sentiments, and forgive my cynicism, Chief. You said it's easy to change policy, but it's hard to change culture. And I'm so thrilled to be speaking in support of the work you're doing leading our department. I talk about you and the department often in a very positive light, especially when this moment in time where there are high emotions in our community. So first of all, don't sell yourself short. Changing policy is never easy. And good job rewording and working with us to move in the right directions. My question to you is that as the policy is shifting, how are the officers that look like me and you who were taught to box? I'm talking about the police union, not the people in the decision seat where you're sitting, but how is this being embraced as a culture? You're telling us what we need to be, and I know you're standing in front of everybody, but are people feeling like we're turning into a patty cake department and there's no time for this? And I'm speaking for the constituents that ask me questions.
Yep.
No, not for me personally, but are these policy shifts starting to embed the culture of our police department here in Grand Rapids?
That is the right question. And so the short answer is yes, it is. And as proof of that, I can go up to the third floor mat room and see that we actually have started a grappling club. And let's say second oldest recruit since I've been here. We hired a gentleman who's 55 and one who's 53. 53-year-old actually leads the club. He's a retired ATF agent, and if anybody was going to be old school, it'd be probably him and me. And so how we did it was, I mean, if I just tell you, like literally, like here's your boxing gloves, Eric. Get in a room. In Chicago, it was they always made sure that you were boxing somebody bigger than you, and then the biggest guy had to box two guys because they want to make sure you knew how to lose. And that was it. Are you done? Did you get beaten up good enough? Okay. You know, that's it. You know how to box now? I was going to go through all this is a jab. This is a cross, hook. So once you actually talk to a police officer who's had time on the streets and been in physical altercations and you tell them like, hey, did that work? I would say, well, I mean, I guess if you're a really, really big guy, it did, but then I had to go back and write up all this paperwork because I hurt the guy, or I'll just be honest, I broke my hand probably 2 or 3 years in fighting somebody who was way bigger than me and whose head was much harder than my hand. So once you actually experience this and you say like, hey, there's a better way, let me show you, and you do it, you get the buy-in. And this younger group of officers, they want to be the best. They don't want to be the next viral video. They want to know that they're getting the best training. And once you say, this is top-notch training, we send our trainers to the best schools, and they come back, they turn into trainers to train the other guys. Al, are you a trainer in jiu-jitsu? You don't have to be if you're not. No, okay, all right. Al's not one of them. I was going to brag about him, but he's great. So once the officers see the success, there's just no arguing about it. It's kind of like the co-response program. When I was a young officer, it was like, hey kid, you know, I would do something nice, like let me change this person's tire, or let me help this kid needs help with homework, you know, and you would have old officers be like, you're not a social worker. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm a social worker. I mean, if you look at the definition of a social worker, it's like people whose job it is to make people better. Like, that's exactly what I am. I'm not as trained as a social worker, but that's exactly what we should be doing to gain that trust. So there was a little bit of resistance when we rolled out the co-response team, but the proof is in how it's turned out. And now you don't, even the 50-year-old officer like me working the street, is on the radio, hey, is co-response available? Like, send them over here. I got a problem they solve. It's the right thing to do. It works. So it takes a little while to make that culture change, but so those are two big things that have changed, and the officers are fully embracing them.
I appreciate
That
that.
was a long answer for a short question, sorry.
Brevity's not my gift either.
Commissioner Kilgore?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chief Wintram. I was able to get, we do have one vacancy that is to be filled by myself here soon for this committee. So first, thank you for your presentation and all the good updates. In terms of the updates, I did note, am I correct in recalling that we did phase out the non-lethal shotguns?
That's right. Do we still
Is that
have
also a
any
news
now?
change as well?
Yeah, we
still have some on the street. We are transitioning.
I mean, he's going to have to come to the mic.
come on up here, Al, so you're on the
And,
record.
here.
I'm going to turn it over to Sergeant Ort.
Thank you, Sergeant.
Good afternoon. In terms of the less lethal shotguns, which are a 12 gauge and fire a beanbag round, we still do have those on the street. We're in a kind of a transition phase where we are training up our sergeants and FTO officers and moving over to a 40 millimeter launcher, which is a larger projectile, if you can envision kind of like half of a racquetball. So it's a larger projectile with a kind of a softer sponge type nose to it, and it's more effective, better accuracy, longer distance range to keep everybody safe. So between that and the pepper ball launchers that we've currently rolled out, we'll be phasing out those less lethal shotguns. It was a great technology 25 years ago when they first came out. There's since have been better tools that are more accurate, so we can have better placement, reduce the injury to any suspect we have to use those on, and keep everybody safe.
Thank you, Sergeant. That's just another example of just wonderful work that we're doing to keep people safe. So thank you for that. I wanted to note that. And then I just want to hear your feedback. I got to hear my colleagues' feedback today at the Committee on Appointments on, I was thinking of putting someone, you talked about the co-response teams. I've been getting data and work from the ACLU on those teams, and that was something that I wanted a member of the ACLU on this committee for, to support your work. And so there is pending, I believe some court things that the ACLU is actively suing the city, and your department is a part of that. And just want to get your feedback on feelings with a member of this committee possibly being from the ACLU who's suing us at this time.
I hate to sound like a politician. Well, that was mean, because you guys are, I love politicians. I don't know what I'm saying. Let me put it this way. I have had a lot of interaction with the ACLU in my previous employment, and I have only had good interactions with the ACLU here. I have met with them on a regular basis. I consider one or more of them actually personal friends, and I know even though we may disagree on some issues, we agree on more than we disagree on. Having said that, with the track record of the ACLU often being, butting heads, I would hate to, and I don't believe they personally sued me. I'd have to look. There have been, I believe I've been the subject of 4 lawsuits since I've been here, just ex officio because I'm the chief of police. I could see how that would complicate my discussions if, for example, we wanted to have a discussion about FOIA. It would, make me feel uncomfortable. It could chill some of the conversations that I've had. There were a lot of lawsuits in my previous employment that covered just the whole range, including the lawsuit which ended up bringing about the consent decree that the police department's under. So it would have been an impossible conversation to have with an ACO attorney then. I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it could have a chilling effect. But I'm a good soldier, and we'll stand here and answer every question I can to the best of my ability. And if there's something I'm uncomfortable answering, I'd certainly explain to the chair or the mayor why I was uncomfortable doing so because of the presence of a attorney from the ACLU.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much for your transparent response. And then I'd like to move to truck traffic if Ms. Smith is still available. But I can start with Chief Wintram. I'm very thankful for you all's partnership with Mobile GR and the city about this. I think it's a very delicate balance that we have to have within this community. We don't want the truck traffic, and I've done an extensive amount of work on this issue with the West Michigan Environmental Action Council, because not only is it dangerous to buildings, to the infrastructure, but just the emissions, the carbon emissions from these rather large trucks in this specific, it's an environmental justice issue. And so that speaks to the delicate balance that you and your team have to balance here, which is we want to enforce the rules that we have for truck traffic, but we don't want this community that has a high Latino population. I believe it's one of our highest Spanish-speaking areas in the city. We don't want them to feel like they're being over-surveillanced or over-policed for no reason, and we want you all to be able to be on things that are important, right? So there's a delicate balance here, and I'm really thankful to hear today that you all are dedicated to doing that balance. So thank you very much for that. So now I can move to Ms. Smith here. So with the signage, we talked about the posting of we saw the signs that were there. Yeah, if we could go back to that for just a moment. Perfect. So is there any way the signage can include specific consequences for actions? We have don't do this behavior. If you, for example, there's construction and it says injure or kill a worker, this amount for jail time, this amount for a fine. Is there a way that we can incorporate the specific consequence of the action on signs rather than just saying no to the behavior? I think that might be helpful just to let folks know that there is a consequence for this. We are surveilling this area for this type of behavior. And once again, there's that balance, right? Of we don't want to always have the police there, but if there was a way that we could point to the consequences that we have for the city, I think that may be possible. What are your thoughts on that?
I would love to go back and talk with the city engineer and the sign shop lead to talk about what something like that would look like. What are the impacts? Is it recommended in this scenario? So context is really, really important. But I appreciate your thoughts and your suggestions, and I will go back and look at that. City Manager, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I just
on
want to
that
make sure,
specifically?
so the signs have already been ordered? Are they, what's the status of the current?
We're installing them now.
Installing now, it's okay. So this, so to launch this there without any other communication, but as a future opportunity to improve, we could look at that, consult with the city attorney. The challenge would be, it depends how long those fines stay the same. If it's for some time, then, they're doable. If not, then it might be challenging. But we can certainly see if there's areas we want to emphasize that more than others.
Yeah.
Sure.
Wonderful. Yeah. So I look forward to circling back about that soon once you have some feedback. Thank you very much.
That's great. Thanks.
Mr. Feikman.
I'll add on the Marshall's question for Jessica here. I guess I would think that based off of the weight classification of the trucks, there would be different fees depending on the route as well. That could also be an issue. So all that information might be a little bit difficult to present on a sign. But you wanted to add on to that?
I could add something to that if you want. So a truck route violation is actually a specific offense, and it's actually a relatively minor fine. I wouldn't recommend putting that on the sign. It's a $100 civil infraction, which for a major commercial trucking outfit is not a significant disincentive. So what it is for my guys who are doing enforcement is it's a reason for contact. They've created a violation, and then maybe they're looking at the truck and saying, is this truck possibly overweight? Is this truck have some sort of equipment violation? It doesn't have mud flaps to protect the other vehicles. Is it creating some spillage that's causing hazards for the road users? So that's all stuff we can get off of a truck route violation. But if you advertise to them like, this is a $100 civil infraction, that's almost kind of lessens the impact. I know it's kind of counterintuitive.
Yeah, so thank you so much for your feedback, and I want to make sure that there's multiple ways here. So like the specific injure, kill, or worker, the amount of money, yes, it's thousands, so it's more. But there's really we're saying don't do this thing with and then what happens is basically what I'm saying here. So if maybe there was a way, and maybe this is we're saying a future conversation of people knowing that there is a fine.
Yeah, and I certainly understand your desire and share that desire to have people not violate that. What I would say is, legally speaking, we as a city are limited what we could. The penalties that we can impose for a civil infraction. Far more limited than the state is able to.
Yes. Thanks. Commissioner.
Thanks.
So if I could ask everyone, if there's anything else urgent, well, we do have one more presentation, and we've got Committee of the Whole at 2:00. So if there's nothing else urgent, thank you all so much. Thanks for the great presentation.
I would like to follow up with one question for Chief Windstrom. So you talked to a number of ways how you are transforming the culture, essentially, rethinking the policies, doing an enormous amount of work with different orgs within the city. So I'm curious, with all this work that you're doing, are you doing some sort of qualitative or quantitative analysis on how you see the culture improving among the rank and file of the police force? I don't know. What do you think those metrics would look like if you were to track those over time?
Yeah, best metrics, well, we got a lot of interesting metrics. Number one is, did our use of forces go down? That's not necessarily an indication because it's referring to other person's conduct, but a measure of complaints, or at least legitimate complaints. And then really best metric for me would be a reliable temperature of what the city thinks about the police department. So obviously crime statistics are extremely important, but if we could be in a position where the default thought of any random person in the city of Grand Rapids was, I trust the police department, that would be a huge success for us. So, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
that answers my question. I mean, It would be very difficult to take a poll of people. That would be an expensive affair, but that's something you can gauge subjectively via social media and so on.
No.
But thank you.
Yeah, and actually, thanks, Chief. There's lots more to discuss here, but just punchline for me, thank you so much for the great overview. I know, and I'll just say this publicly, that you and your force are committed to a culture of continuous improvement. And so I think that moving towards always asking ourselves the question of how can we do better tomorrow? And I think that the community in general ought to be asking ourselves, how can we do better tomorrow in a positive way? And that's something that I say all the time is we can talk about things that happen, the bad things that happened in the past, but our best focus always should be on how can we make our community safer tomorrow? How can we have better justice tomorrow? And how can that look better? So thank you for this. And thank you, I guess, even primarily for your departments and your commitment to engage with the community on this, because I've heard you say it before, and you just essentially said it again, that legitimacy depends on, levels of citizen engagement and citizen trust. And so I thank you for your laser focus on that issue.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, and that brings us to our last presentation from Mr. Davis about programming for the summer, I believe.
All right, good afternoon. I have the privilege of giving you the briefing on OPA's summer youth programming. It's facilitated by OPA and community partners regarding violence prevention. We will make this quick, but for our agenda, we'll give you a little background on how this program got started. We'll be able to do a recap on last year's program. We do have both Mr. Brown and Pastor Bishop who are here, who are involved in last year's program, and they'll be able to give some of that information about how last year's program worked. Then we'll give you an overview for what this year's program will look like, and we'll wrap it up with some questions. So by way of background, statistical data does show us that violent crime involving youth increases in the summer months. And there's some really clear reasons for that happening, right? Students being out of school, not having other things to do. The good thing is that crime is down in Grand Rapids altogether. But we know that it is partnerships with our community partners, along with the work of the police departments and several other city departments, that allow us to be at that space. In past years, there were some serious violence incidents that resulted in the death of two teenagers a few years back. And that really led us to a place where we started looking at this and saying, what else can we do here in Grand Rapids to reduce that youth violence? Last year was the first year that we began the It Takes a Village program. So what is the program? It's a program designed to lower violent crime among youth in Grand Rapids by providing alternative activities during those summer weekend evenings. The real goal is to leverage venues in the evening to give those students or individuals activities that say, hey, here's something else you can do that's positive in order to stay engaged throughout the summer. So this year, we'll be doing it at 3 sites. It'll be at the Life Quest Church Gym, also at the Gerald R. Ford building, and at the Burton Middle School. So how does it work? We collaborate with community partner organizations to provide a safe and collegial environment, also by providing those recreational activities, and we recruit the students by publicizing these events through neighborhood associations, faith-based community, other community-based organizations, and on all of our social media websites. We also have great partnerships with the Grand Rapids Public Schools. They've been a partner at several of these sites and are also partnering this year. So again, last year we ran 2 sites. It was the first year, and we were fortunate to have community leaders step up and say, hey, we want to be a part of this actually pretty quickly. So we will talk a little bit about both the Night Quest and City Vibes program. I'll first go to Pastor Bishop. We'll talk a little bit about last year's Night Quest program. Then I'll turn to Mr. Brown, and he'll talk about the City Vibes program last year. Pastor?
Thank you, Brandon. Honored to be here on today. As you know, last June was a very difficult start of the summer, and many city leaders convened a meeting with myself and others about what we could do to do some intervention. And so really we did what, I don't think it's the 100% elixir, but we opened up our facility to an audience that primarily isn't served on weekend evenings. So what we did, we simply opened up our gymnasium and we modified from basketball tournaments to an open gym from middle school up till 18. They get a meal. We have guest speakers come in. We gave away, everybody got a shirt, some identification, various T-shirts. Everything was free. But one of the things that we added, we continued on significantly longer. We just made it a part of our mission because young people need to meet regardless if there's some funding or not. And so we kept the gym open. We've added some event nights like this last Saturday. We took 27 of them to a main event out by the Woodland Mall. It was free to them. We provided them transportation, fed them, gave them arcade games. But then, we're expecting to try to do the same thing again with a little bit extended format. We really need to think as a community of having some level of permanence to the outreach instead of it going on, shutting down. We really have to give that audience a meeting place. As an example, I had an opportunity to meet on a Zoom a few weeks ago where I was stressing that although we have a Saturday night event, and we were fortunate to modify that at the request of the young people. They were saying, well, we're not going to come out on a Friday, but if you open this up on Saturdays, we'll come out. And they kept their word. The attendance goes up to a high of 80, maybe then it goes down to 10. Weather in the wintertime impacted it, but we were consistent in staying open. But then most importantly, there has to be something also during the week, Monday through Thursday, to captivate that. We have too many gyms. We have some amazing parks that are contained, they're safe. And my conversation with the staff, the city staff that met with me was, we ought to be able to collaborate with a way to engage a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday collaborative event to keep people engaged. Basketball is not the end-all be-all, but it does, the gymnasium being open creates a meeting space. We've had 0 incidents of violence at all. And we have some very firm rules. I mean, we're just not playing around with the audience. As an example, you can't come in the gym without being wanded for weapons. If you smell like marijuana, you can't come in at all. Profanity, we make you leave. We've not had one participant since last June fail to meet that. They also, backpacks are not allowed in. So again, I believe that if we create the standard, enforce the standard, they will conform, and we do this with a very compassionate outreach. So.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Appreciate you.
I'm going to try to go the right. Did I go the right way? All right. So,
No new slide.
no new slide?
Nope. Just right here. Just talk about it.
Okay, all right. Oh, man, that was a slide, my bad.
No problem.
See, that's what, I tripped over there, didn't have, because I had my glasses on, I can't see the slide because I don't. Anyway, our program was somewhat similar. The City Vibes was intended to focus on the enrichment side of things. As that group got together, we talked about basketball. Again, that's a pleasure of mine and a lot of ours over the past, but we also said that there are others that basketball isn't everything. So we attempted to provide some other enrichment services. Although we were at a gym and the gym was one of the draws, we did have other things that are going on that the students can participate in. We had guest speakers, but one thing I really want to highlight that we added was GVSU, Grand Valley State University, was part of our program as well. So they had participation on both nights. And the good thing about it was a young man that kind of led it was there every session. He was young, he was able to connect with them, get in there, play basketball. From what I hear, he was probably giving them business, as they would say, but he would pull them away in unthreatening times and be able to talk to them and encourage them about going on and pursuing their academic careers. Maybe for a lot of them didn't even be able to think about something like that. We want to get into some of the other arts, be able to provide some arts alternatives. We want to be able to find that being the live arts, maybe even music, but also painting and those type of things, to have an alternative for that demographic, that age group. We were again, at Alger last year, so GRPS provided our security. We had no incidents, so that's something that we were proud of. Of our 50-plus regular attenders, and we had higher attendance rates than that at sometimes, 75% of them came on a regular basis, but 60% of the youth, this is what you have, 60% of the youth reported improved conflict resolution and decision-making skills. So we're talking about moving upstream. The other thing that was upstream and being able to give them alternatives, but another highlight was when I was debriefing with the team, they said, hey, they listed out, and I got a report here, and you guys see these things, but they said, we kind of just gave them another place to be. And as Pastor Bishop was saying earlier, that's what we need. They need to be able to have a place to be that's a safe place, that is not non-threatening, that can hang with their friends, hang with good, safe adults, and they can be kids, and they have a chance to be young folks that's in a safe. So we think it accomplished in a short period of time the goals that were set out at the beginning. We have some recommendations we'll get into another time as we're getting ready to relaunch again this year. Looking forward to that at GR Ford, but we can get in that to another time. So I'll wrap it up.
Thank you, sir. All right. So first, thanks to both of you for leading the efforts at both of these sites. And because it went so well at both of those sites last year, we're moving forward with those again. So without spending too much time on this slide, I know we've been here for a little while. Night Quest will be running again this year. So that is the program hosted at LifeQuest Urban Outreach. And it is designed, there's both a Saturday morning league for middle schoolers and a night league for 16 to 21-year-olds. And it'll run in the same way that Pastor Bishop identified it ran last year. So we're looking forward to the Night Quest program. We'll also be running City Vibes again this year. Again, this is a collaboration with the City of Grand Rapids Public Schools, the Urban League of West Michigan, and GVSU. And this is just, again, a great example of how we can come together and offer multiple things. What's great about this site is that while we have basketball at one site, at this site we have a variety of things that appeal to students that may not be interested in basketball or just be interested in sports, but are looking for something to be connected to. Again, that same security will be present, and we're grateful for that support from GRPS. In addition to the two sites that ran last year, we are launching a new site this year, and we're excited about it. There will be an esports site that will be going in. It will be Friday and Saturday nights starting June 20th through August 1st. This is being put together by Mr. DeAndre Jones. So we've heard him talk a lot about esports, and he's really passionate about this space, and he's not doing it alone. He's working with Epic Games Design to do these education sessions, and has several colleges and universities that have stepped up and say, hey, we want to be a part of this as well. We see this as a feeder group for the programs that we have at our university. So we're super excited about that. The target demographic is ages 10 to 17. It'll be held at Burton Middle School. One of the great things is that GRPS does have the state-of-the-art esports labs, and Burton Middle School is one of the places that has that. So they'll be able to, students will have access to that and all of the activities that come along with that. So I'll turn it over to the city manager here so we can talk about the comprehensive overview of the city's summer youth programming.
I'll just be very brief in summary. I think the emphasis has been, as you've heard, for us to focus on those programs that are additional beyond just the daytime, day camps, pools, and the employment program, which is very good, the Grow 1000, and think about what things we can do in the evening, and there you see some evolution. I do have one clarity. I think Fire Chief left the hot team. Oh, you still there? Fire Chief. Yeah, hot team is primarily still day. I think the Fire Chief's envision was for the medical outreach effort to be more after hour than the hot effort, and I think that's what we had the last briefing. So, but other than that, with availability of the Behavioral Crisis Center, we have way more resources, significantly more resources than we had before in terms of summer programming for youth.
Thank you, sir. And with that, we'll open it up for questions.
Quick question. Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Looking forward to the program. What's happening? I know in June is National Gun Violence Month. Is there anything done through OPA to help in that capacity?
So OPA supports community efforts and community programs related to that, but we don't personally lead any gun violence reduction efforts specific to them.
Okay.
Mr. Davis?
Thank you. I appreciate all of these programs. I appreciate Pastor and Mr. Brown, just such great stuff. And I just want to make sure that if this is a targeted program that we're investing in and supporting and wanting to grow, I'm not saying how anyone should run their organizations. I certainly want my kids being respectful when they go where they go. But if we're looking at youth who is potentially torn between decisions that are healthy and positive and decisions that could lead down the wrong paths, I don't know if holding the line at swear words is where I want to be on youth that I'm trying to keep off the street. I just want to be as inclusive as possible and bring as many people as there as possible. I think we should absolutely wand and hold new standards, but if that's the benchmark, I'm wondering if we're reaching the right people that we're after.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Davis. City Manager, do you have a comment?
No, that was a pretty provocative question. I think it merits some reflection. I'm not sure if Mr. Davis or Mr. Bishop's able to comment to it.
Well, I can speak to the way the city navigate or OPA navigates that space. Essentially, we have the benefit of partnering with some great community partners. And our community partners have their own standards for their organizations, and we respect the standards that they have, recognizing that each organization navigates differently based on the type of space it is, and in order for them to keep some sense of security and safety, some of them have children that have those type of rules. We respect their ability to do that and defer to their wisdom in it. I don't know if Pastor.
I know we were out of time. I'll just say, we have rules here, City Commission as well. No signs, no cursing, swearing, derogatory remarks.
Right.
Now, does that happen in here? Of course it does. And so I think we'd be naive to think that it doesn't happen. It happens in church sometimes. So, but I think you have to create an expectation that this is not the standard for what we're doing. Yeah.
This is not Pastor Bishop's first rodeo. So, I appreciate your work, Pastor. And yeah, I mean, it's an interesting conversation to have. Probably not best right now in this place, but interesting conversation to have.
You don't want to encourage it, I think.
Thanks, everybody. And I will call the meeting to a close.